In this video, I'm analyzing an excerpt from Culture, and it says, if I were a teacher, I would implement some strategies that we have seen in this class. I am thinking of activities that combine the cultural aspects of each country in a dynamic way, and in some years I am going to evaluate the results of this plan. So this is a small paragraph and it has two sentences. The first one, which is, if I were a teacher, I would implement some strategies that we have seen in this class, is a complex sentence. And if we look at the first two clauses, which is a if clause or a subordinate clause and a main clause, if I were a teacher, I would implement some of the strategies, we can see that it's the second conditional. And the second conditional is a structure that helps to express hypothetical situations of things that would be possible in the future, but in a hypothetical way. And it is formed by the if clause, the subordinating clause, and it has to be in the simple past, and then the main clause that needs the modal would. And then it would be, if I were a teacher, I would implement some of the strategies. And also note how we are not using was, even if we are using I. And this is because when you use the second conditional, you need to use were for all the subjects or all the pronouns. Okay, so the first clause, which is the subordinating clause, the if clause, if I were a teacher, has one phrase, a teacher, which is a noun clause. And then parts of speech, if is a subordinating conjunction, I is the personal pronoun in the subject, where the verb, a or a, an article, and teacher, a noun. Then the second clause of the second conditional is I would implement some strategies. And here we have two phrases. The first one is would implement, which is a verb phrase. And here we have the modal would. And there are many modals, and modals are words that modify the verbs and change the meaning of the verb depending on which modal we are using. Then for example, well, we are using would. Then would implement is the verb phrase, and some strategies is a noun phrase. And parts of speech is I, a personal pronoun, would, the modal or auxiliary, implement verb. Some, it's a quantifier, and a quantifier is a word that can modify nouns, and it expresses the quantity of something. And sometimes the nouns are countable or uncountable, and we can use some or any to indicate the quantity of these nouns, depending on if it is countable or uncountable. Then we have strategies, which is a noun. Then the third clause is a relative clause that we have seen in this class. And here we have the phrase have seen, which is a verb phrase in the present perfect. Then we have in this class, which is a prepositional phrase, and this class, which is a noun phrase. And parts of speech would be that relative pronoun, we, personal pronoun, have is an auxiliary, and seen is the main verb in the past participle in preposition. This is an adjective, a demonstrative adjective, and class is a noun. Then the other sentence is a compound complex sentence, and it's I am thinking of activities that combine the cultural aspects of each country in a dynamic way. And in some years, I am going to evaluate the results of this plan. So first we have a main clause, which is I am thinking of activities. And here we have a verb phrase, which is I'm thinking. This is a verb phrase in the present continuous. And present continuous is a verb tense that serves to express actions that are happening at the moment, like in the immediate moment. And also sometimes it's used to express future. But in this context, it's more like something that is happening at the moment. Then we also have of activities, which is a prepositional phrase, and parts of speech. I is a personal pronoun, am is the auxiliary verb to be in the simple present, and thinking is the main verb, and it's in the present participle. Then we have of, preposition, and activities noun. Then we have a relative clause, which is that combine the cultural aspects of each country in a dynamic way. And here we have the cultural aspect, which is a noun phrase. Of each country is a prepositional phrase, and in a dynamic way is another prepositional phrase, and a dynamic way is a noun phrase. And now parts of speech. That is a relative pronoun, combine is a verb, the article, cultural is an adjective, aspect is a noun, of is a preposition, each is like an adjective because it's modifying country, which is a noun, in preposition, a article, dynamic adjective, and way is a noun. And finally, we have main clause, which is, and in some years I am going to evaluate the results of this plan. And we have phrases in some years is a prepositional phrase, and then I'm going to is a verb. Well, it will be I'm going to evaluate, and it's a verb phrase. And this verb phrase is using going to, which is used to express a plan or something that is going to happen in the future. And then we have the result, which is a noun phrase, and of this plan, a prepositional phrase, and this plan, a noun phrase. And parts of speech. First, we have and, which is a conjunction, coordinating conjunction of fanboys. In preposition, some is a quantifier, and I already explained that part. Years is a noun. I is a personal pronoun. And then I'm going to, it's like it comes together, but we could say that it's like the auxiliary, and maybe going, it's like a present participle, and to would be like the particle of the phrasal verb, but going to is used as a thing together. So yes, and then we have evaluate, which is the verb, and it's like the main verb. It's in the base form. Then we have the, it's an article, results, noun, of preposition. This is a demonstrative adjective, and plan is a noun. And well, this excerpt reminded me of the time when I was selecting my major, where I wanted to study. And I remember that my mom told me that she knew that I wanted to be a teacher, so that she was happy because I had selected this major.